To the Moon by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Art thou hell for weariness of climbing heaven and gazing on the earth, wandering companionless among the stars that have a different birth, and ever changing like a joyless eye that finds no object worth its constancy? Thou chosen sister of the spirit that gazes on thee until thee it pities. Alright, ... which probably means there's an extension to this, but I am not going to read the rest.
I like it.
Wherever this was going, it was this is a poem called "To the Moon," which essentially captures the spirit of today's conversation or episodes. And what exactly are we? Who am I? Actually, let's start there.
I think that's a good question.
All right, so Shen, this is me. This is SG2 on Space, episode 203. So we took a hiatus of about 3 weeks because I was actually working on a lunar mission with Intuitive Machines, actually. So for anybody who's watching,
busy.
Yeah. So essentially, we have been. I've had a really weird schedule. So, but glad to be back. If you're watching this live, this is February 28th. 2024. So next to the last day of this month in 2024. And before I go on any further and just ramble on, let me see, what is this other guy who was talking? Do you know? For viewers out there, do you know his name? Okay. Wow. Here.
Oh, Shen.
What's going on?
What's going on with you? I'm doing good. Better than I deserve.
That's always your better than I deserve. I like that, actually. I think I think I can say the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Not? So okay. So for our viewers out there, you're hopefully you're watching SG2 on Space on YouTube.
Yeah.
We've been, like I said, we took a hiatus, but normally we're every week.
Yeah, we try to do about every week. Yeah.
You can support the show, patreon.com/SG2 on Space. And also thank you for Kyle Baker, Sam Welsh, and John Graves for your monthly donations. I will keep a ticker running at the bottom. Thanking you guys. For now, though, let's why don't we just jump into the episode, shall we?
Yeah, you texted me. You said you want to talk about the moon. Is that...
Yeah. So let me ask you, why are we interested in going there?
Well, for me, it just lifts our spirit. You know, why do we want to go there? I mean, because it's an achievement. When I was little, that was one of the highlights of my life, was seeing a man walk on the moon on July 20th, 1969. And since then, I think there were 5 other missions. One of them failed. Apollo 13 failed, and so 10 humans have walked on the moon. And damn it, I thought we would get back there by now. You know, so I didn't think that it would take over.
You didn't think it would take?
I didn't think it was going to take my entire lifetime. So that's why we need to go back to the moon, because so that the dreams that I had as a child,
So the dreams of Leonard could be fulfilled.
That's right. If that isn't the most self-absorbed reason.
That's the primary reason for really doing much of anything in space.
So, but it's true. I mean, it's not just for me, but I mean, it lifts our spirit as a species. People are going to always want to come out and say that they're intelligent and smart, and that there's so many better things that we could be doing with the money that we're spending. But how much money it costs? It's a handful of change.
It is.
So for each person, it's a handful of change, per year, and so all of the other things that we can get done. And much of it's being funded privately now, although the NASA does have some is pulling the strings, is dangling carrots out to make that happen. So
here, let's see here. Where have we gone on the moon?
the first place was Mare Tranquillitatis.
Share this.
Tranquillitatis.
This is a
the Sea of Tranquility.
Which can indicate where it's pretty useful. It's like
provided
by LROC, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. So all these images are composited from LROC, and it's really detailed. It can be. In fact, LRO was their camera was the one that recently captured where the Intuitive Machines lander landed.
Oh, I saw that.
So, which is pretty interesting. But let's see. I was going to go and find where all the oh wow, they even have Artemis 3 candidate landing regions. That's interesting. Anthropogenic features. Anthropogenic.
Let's be careful here. Anthropogenic
features is where essentially humans or machines, let's just say human-made things.
Wow, it's that many. Is that the label that?
Here.
Let me see it. I never saw this website before.
I need to turn on the Latlon show graticule. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so like, where did Apollo land? All these places, I think.
So all of the dots are places where objects have.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
Is that?
Yeah, and so they brought back rocks, and we learned that the moon has basalt and breccia, and breccia is a indication of impacts, and we learned that those maria are probably from impact events that were flooded with molten rock.
There's a lot of like the moon has geological features that are preserved well beyond that of Earth, right?
For billions of years.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
It's also covered with dust because the surface has been pulverized over eons of time, billions of years, by meteors of all different sizes, and it's continuing to be struck today.
Let me look at the Artemis regions, actually. Let me see if I can show the South Pole, which is where people are really interested in because there's water ice there, supposedly.
Yeah, I think that's been identified. There's hydrogen-bearing features there, so there's water there. The water's frozen.
These are the candidate regions for Artemis, which, by the way, Leonard, can you explain what Artemis is?
Well, in what you mean? Well, Artemis is the space program that the United States is endeavoring to land humans on the moon. Was that your question? Artemis is also a goddess from ancient Greece that I've been interested in. So
right. But, okay. So actually,
the namesake for the Artemis program.
Let me before I ask you about Artemis, I just want to point out the recent accomplishment of, like I said, Intuitive Machines. I was actually sitting on console, and so I was very glad that we managed to get to the moon. This is really shared on LROC, and look, this little pinpoint.
I saw this.
You saw this article?
That's from the lunar LRO.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can see here this touchdown on Moon Thursday, February 22nd at 23:23:53 UTC, or 17:23 Central Time.
It wasn't completely uneventful, as I understand, and maybe
I will illuminate a little bit more, I suppose, in that let's just say we had a number of issues.
Well, tell us first of all, what was your role? I mean, I think I saw you on console.
Yay, you did. Should I share a picture?
Yeah, I don't have the picture, but I think I saw you on the TV.
I was part of the white shift on the. So there's three shifts. There's white, red, and blue. And essentially, White Shift was the one that covers, I guess, the landing part and all the way up to LV set plus like 6 hours or so. So each shift was about like 9 hours long, although I think most of us stayed a bit longer due to various just the handoff time took longer, or there were like some issues that needed to be resolved. So I started on trajectory console. Mostly it was just managing our ephemerides and essentially ensuring that we know where our spacecraft is and where it's going. And the backroom did a lot of work in redesigning trajectories as we, updated our state knowledge. So
you said the back room.
yeah, we have a MER in the so there's like
people might want to know what a MER is.
I don't know what it stands for, but I probably
mission evaluation room.
Mission, is that
I think.
Yeah, there you go. It is mission evaluation room. Yeah, engineering support.
So it's like a room where the engineers meet to discuss the mission, how things are going, resolve anomalies and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, we have definitely a lot of support, that's for sure. So the front room console operators like me, we had to make sure that our spacecraft was functioning and looking at our, telemetry data coming in and handling a lot of the on the loops demands of information.
Well, so what kind of telemetry? What kind of telemetry did you? Let me do the interviewing.
Leonard's doing the interviewing. Oh my gosh! What kind of world is this? All right, I will say as much as I can and no more. How about that?
As much as you can. Well, no. Who would ask you to tell us more? I mean. So what was the nature of the data that you were evaluating on console? People.
So, well, I mean, our display indicated our like our onboard state knowledge of our position velocities, as well as and then of course there were all sorts of navigation sensor knowledge as well, like our star trackers, IMU data. And so a large part of what I did was helping with the getting essentially building all the products that's needed for whenever we need a new ephemeris, which is like a new trajectory, right? And a new burn plan, and getting those commands sent on board. So for our work, like it takes a good chunk of time from the moment that like we get a new state knowledge update, and the fact that, hey, we need to do this burn like 6 hours from now or 7 hours or something like that. So, and we did not always have the best knowledge, I will say. So like when we entered lunar orbit, that LOI burn that was performed, the engine performed beautifully, like it was what we commanded it to do. But since we had a poor state knowledge beforehand, the orbit it ended up in turned out to be extremely low, to the point where the parallel was dangerously low. Let's just say that. And so we had to do a correction maneuver very shortly. I mean, after a couple of orbits. This was before I got on shift, but it's like.
Do you know how low the periapsis was? How close to the?
I think this is something that, like, I believe it's on the order of like. Yeah, I mean, it's low enough where I think it would have been a risk of collision with some mountains if we were unlucky.
Oh wow!
So I mean, I don't have an exact estimate. I think that's one thing we want to go back and reconstruct.
So you had to burn again when it came back around to circularize.
So once we ascertained that, hey, like the times of our like eclipses, which we can know from looking at our power data, was not matching up with what our projected orbit, low lunar orbit would be, which should have been 100 kilometers circular orbit. We like it was like, okay, we're obviously it's in some eccentric orbit that is not that we need to do something about. And so I think it took us like a few more orbits to gather enough tracking data for us to have enough confidence to say, okay, we need to essentially raise the paraloon a bit. So the ideal plan, the original plan was to go into 100-kilometer circular orbit and then do a descent orbit insertion burn, to lower it. So we ended up essentially going into like a really low orbit to start with, let's just say. So we just raised it up slightly.
Right.
So, and also during this time, we were trying to use our laser rangefinder because, originally in a 100-kilometer orbit, we would not actually have been able to use our laser rangefinder because it only has a range of, I think, approximately like 80 kilometers or so.
It's too far. Yeah.
Yeah. But this, like through this, we discovered that our, LURFs wasn't even working.
What is the rangefinder? Is it a laser?
Yeah, it's a laser. I don't know much about it. I mean, I only know that it's supposed to tell you like it shoots lasers and bounces back, but it wasn't working since I think a safety thing wasn't taking off or something. That's in the public news. I mean, you can read like everything I say here for the most part is not for the most part. I think everything I'm saying is like there was a press release earlier today. Like Intuitive Machines gave one at like 2 o'clock, I think, this afternoon.
Yeah.
So they talked about some of these issues. But like for, I would say, we're extremely fortunate in that, like, there were a lot of things that could have effectively caused us to, not succeed.
But you were very resilient. You were able to.
The first day, by the way, our star tracker wasn't processing measurements. I mean, the filter was rejecting it.
Tell people what a star tracker is.
Okay, so a star tracker is a device, a sensor that essentially matches up. It has a database of stars, and it matches up what it's like. You can think of it as like a camera as well. It matches up what the stars with what the database has, so it gives you a good estimate of like the absolute orientation with respect to inertial space of how your spacecraft is working.
So what you'd say that it looks at the stars and it identifies the star field and compares it to an internal model of the stars, and then you can tell what direction you're pointing. So it's very interesting.
Correct. So if our star field measurements was not being accepted, what ended up happening was that in the first day, the spacecraft had no good sense of how it's oriented. And so when we commanded it, when our guidance mode was telling it to go with max power, because during the majority of our, except when we're trying to, have our high gain antenna pointed towards Earth, except for those periods when we need high rate data transfer, for most of our guidance mode is, and when we're thrusting, obviously we need to adjust it so our thrust vector is aligned with what we need. But other than that, all other times we're looking for max power mode, and our spacecraft did not understand. Like when we told it to do that, the star tracker wasn't working, so it put itself in some weird orientation that wasn't getting much power, and so we had to rush and essentially we came up with I wouldn't say a random attitude, but we chose an attitude that worked, that was power positive. And so while we commanded it manually to go there, and so it was power positive. And during that time, people in the back rooms or with not just a MERV, but we call it Team 4, but there were people essentially writing code to fix this. And so and then we sent it up. And then the star tracker measurements were accepted.
That's interesting.
So we had to do that really fast.
Is that a specialized language, or is that C code, or what? Or maybe you can't tell.
I don't know the innards of this.
Because that's pretty wild that they were writing code on the fly.
I think they were I mean the other even more massive effort was when our laser rangefinder was found to not work, and then we tried to use NDL, and so there were a couple of times when writing code on the fly happened, I mean,
It's interesting.
in an ideal mission, no, you would not be writing code on the fly and setting it up. But
Right.
like for us, I think when it was updated, I believe it was probably changing some. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate since I actually really don't know what they changed.
Oh,
So,
okay, that's fine.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
So,
not going
so
to
tell us,
make
so
up
tell
stuff.
us what So tell us the story about So when it landed, it didn't. I got some information that it didn't really land nominally. That it did something like it flew sideways or something like that. I've seen various.
Yeah, it landed. I think like from the latest report, in this picture, by the way, I don't know if you can look at that. See, that's a pretty little GIF from showing before and after in the LROC imagery. Yeah, so you can see how that. But yeah, like there's some descent imagery as well as looking at, say, the how the solar power generation is happening. That pretty much lends, uh, you know, points to the fact that it like when it landed, it was like actually upright, I believe. But then what happened is like it's like it impacted pretty hard, so like one of the legs kind of broke off, and so it flopped, and then but it's on a slope as well, so it ends up being like combined. Like if you compare it to like a flat horizon, it'd be like about 30
Uh-huh.
degrees. Um,
Right.
so
So it came down. It came down at a kind of a suboptimal.
yeah,
And
because like it did not. So what ended up happening, even though like the only measurements that we're using, that it was using to update its state was like the optical navigation camera, and the IMU. So it kind of didn't quite estimate how high it was, and so I think it was still assuming it was like 100 meters, and so even when it landed, like the engine was still firing for a bit. So like
wow.
yeah, like it was a hard enough impact where like one of the legs broke, I suppose.
Yeah, we think one of the yeah, okay, one of the legs.
Yeah, I mean you can see it in like the descent imagery. Essentially, like it's the landed imagery. Actually, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
publicly shared yet, but if that when that does come out eventually.
So what about the science instruments? Is it sending back science?
Yeah, a lot of the data, I think every single payload on there has had data downlinked, and it's being pretty sure it's being distributed to all the payload developers. Um, so I don't know, like I I mean, in terms of the specific details, I'm not sure. I mean, probably yeah, like since I didn't work on payloads, but
Right.
I know that NASA calls it a success in a sense because like it was able to land and it was able to
It
bring down.
landed. It's still running,
It's
and
still
it's
running.
sending back data.
Exactly, and that's a pretty success in there. So
And not only that, I want to say this also. There were a lot of unmodeled contingencies that occurred, meaning a lot of things. But you were able to improvise and show the adaptability of and that's a form of robustness. That's a form of I don't know, something to be said good about the effort there. And also you're going to learn stuff, and then the next time you go, you're going to correct all of those.
well, that's the
And
point, right? Like I talked to some of the other folks, and yeah, I mean, considering this is the first mission, there was a lot of it carried a lot of risk. I mean, even
uh-huh.
like not from the navigation standpoint, also from just like the engine itself, like it's never been tested in space before. You can do all the dry runs you want in Earth, but it's not the same.
Right.
To
Yeah.
to
That's
have it,
interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah,
So
and essentially it's like a whole bunch of things could have like you know uh, gone wrong. I mean, some of things obviously did go wrong, but we were able to fix it, or we got lucky, like I said.
yeah.
So, you know, I think overall, like, there's a lot of lessons learned that could be translated into a much less stressful and, more more successful second
Well,
mission.
I'd be encouraged
Right.
if
Because
I were
like
you.
the second intuitive machines mission is supposed to go to the Shackleton Bridge, which if I'm gonna point that out
Shackleton. Yeah,
here, let me see.
he
So
was an
Shackleton, so
Antarctic explorer.
yeah, so
And
you see that giant hole
uh-huh,
in here? That is Shackleton crater, which is well technically this is the south pole of the moon, but
uh-huh.
point is like there is a so during the contour here, let me see if I can turn on the contour map. But it is not very conducive for landing, let's just say, because most of it is
Yeah, it looks rugged.
is what is this? Is that let me look up elevation or elevation permanently shadow regions hill shape pixel scale. Have you used this by the way?
No, I never saw this before. I'm anxious for the show to get over so I can try.
Yeah, so this is so you can see the slope here. This is like 32. Like you're gonna be dead in here. By the way, this is like a permanently shadowed crater. Shackleton crater is I believe the largest impact crater in our solar system, formed a couple of billion years ago. And so there's a along the edge of this. So that this high slope is like the crater itself, but like along here somewhere, I believe is or is it there's like really essentially there's a thin region around the crater itself which is well lit, and
It's
so
always it's almost always in sunlight
right so
because it's on the South Pole.
yeah, like you can see it like maybe around here. So
I
there's
don't
a
know.
interest.
Maybe people don't realize this, but the moon rotates. In 27 days, 27 and a half days, and
Right.
so there's long periods where you have darkness. But at this point, there's the potential for being able to be in sunlight or to have access to sunlight for the entire permanently or but then immediately adjacent to it are these craters that are in deep shadow and accumulate volatile certain elements like water and maybe some other things. Water is important because that's a source of hydrogen, which might be able to use to make fuel, and also water to sustain life potentially.
Exactly. I mean that's why there's so much interest in going to the South Pole, because we know there's water ice there
It's an interesting place, yeah.
for life, as well as really essentially maybe possibly used for rocket fuel as well to extract the oxygen from. But yeah, I mean you can see here there's like this connecting bridge area. So these relatively less dark regions are the higher up regions, where if you want to land really near the South Pole, that's where you would land, because
We got
everything else is going to be shaded and
I
you're not
see.
going to get much sun. So yeah, like around here, like all
Uh,
along this,
I
or
see. So
but so I mean, this is a lot more challenging because like you're gonna have to have really precision landing. So like the first mission, the IM-1 mission that just landed, it was about 80 degrees south, which is still like around here somewhere, around up here. So this area is like, I mean, sure, there's still a bunch of craters and things, but it's a lot more benign than down here. So
right, I see. So that's on the target. That's the goal is to land at the South Pole or
yeah, like
demonstrate the capability of doing that. Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, technically, the first Intuitive Machines mission is already landing the South Pole, because like anything within like 80 degrees south is considered the South Pole. But like
Oh,
second mission is like really going, like around here, and that's really close to the actual nominal South
right. I see.
Pole. So
That's
it's definitely going to be
so
more challenging.
so the paying customer. How does Intuitive Machines make their money? NASA's the customer, and
There's something called have you heard of the CLIPS program? Uh,
no.
Commercial Lunar Payload Services
Yes, I
Program.
have. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So so here, let me see if I can just so the CLIPS program, Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program, is where so NASA, as viewers probably know, have the Artemis program, which essentially is bringing the next, man or woman or combination thereof to the moon. So it's a human program. But in addition to that, NASA has also been supporting commercial development through the commercial lunar payload services, where NASA instruments and various for technology demos or for science is basically payloads on commercial lunar landers. For instance, Intuitive Machines or Astrobotic or Firefly. So these are commercial companies which are essentially building their own spacecrafts, and then NASA is paying, like, hey, here's this amount of fixed costs. It's like fixed cost contract. Here's this amount of money. You got to hit certain milestones, but you're taking our instruments, NASA instruments, to the moon. So like, this has been around for a few years. I mean, this is a relatively new way NASA is doing things.
And the company Intuitive Machines, the company itself is a publicly listed.
Intuitive Machines is publicly listed.
So people could buy stock in the company, actually.
That's correct. Yeah, and lately, I guess on this page, there's a lot of Intuitive Machines articles. You can read more. Like these are real pictures. I mean, that's like where it was just departing from the moon. I mean,
I want to comment that, so what that means is that because it's a publicly funded, they get their money through the sale of the stock, and so that money is used to pay for all of this stuff, and the taxpayers are not at risk. In other words, NASA doesn't have that risk. It's the risk of it succeeding. The benefit of succeeding goes to the stockholders, the people that own it, and then the risk of failure is borne by them as well. So
I think you can definitely say that for sure. I think obviously the government still plays a role here. At least in the beginning, it has to, because for a business to make financial sense, like somebody has to at least initially enable like businesses to develop this technology.
Yeah.
So like
I was going to say, one of the things that I've observed about the government is that it always seems to be very bureaucratic. The Apollo program, the shuttle program, and so forth, very bureaucratic, very ponderous and slow, and things move very, very slowly. And my take on it is that they're extremely risk averse. They don't want to. They want everything planned out. They don't want anything to fail. They don't want. Whereas the private company, and this is just a perception that I have, the private company can fail fast. They can do stuff, quickly.
That's true.
And you see it.
I agree with that.
You can see it. You can see it with this endeavor right here.
Indeed.
Elon Musk, SpaceX as well. In comparison of SpaceX to Boeing, now Boeing's also a private initiative that we talked about some time ago. Boeing, the Starliner, and then comparing with SpaceX, they were like comparable programs. And Boeing has, I want to use the word floundered, but I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want people to feel bad about it, because I want them to succeed. But Boeing's Starliner program has just not performed, whereas SpaceX is up and running and delivering, to the space station over and over again. So it's very, and so of course they're both private efforts. But Boeing is engineered sort of. They're developed for that government, massive government complex that Eisenhower talked about.
The military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
I think the whole point of the CLIPS initiative, commercial lunar is to change that kind of paradigm where,
that's right.
Essentially it's not so much where you spend as much money and time as possible because that's how you survive, but more like you get the job done. So you get awarded based on getting whatever, like, take these instruments to the moon. And then there's a next contract or award for like doing something else. So like Intuitive Machines right now, there's like two other ones. like I said, one of them is going to that Shackleton Ridge area. Another one is, actually listed out here, like IM2, that's Shackleton Connecting Ridge. And then IM3 is going to a place called Rainer Gamma, which is like this magnetic region. It's some magnetic.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So and that's like equatorial, so it's different. It's not South Pole, but so IM2 here, like it's also interesting that there's a plan to like drill for ice with a Prime 1 instrument, which is also pretty unique. So there's a lot of stuff going on, that's for sure. And later this year, also I know Firefly, based in Austin, is trying to land in Mare Crisium with their Blue Ghost, I guess, spacecraft. I don't know much more about that, but that's also mostly happening this year. So there's a lot of activity going on, let's just say. So and then in a few years, we're going to see humans there. At least that's a plan with the Artemis program.
Yeah.
So
okay.
And
well,
but I feel like I've rambled on. Normally it's you, Leonard, who's rambling. Thanks for like asking me a bunch of questions.
No, it occurred to me that it's like I'm always being tapped for the.
Well, yeah.
So but I mean, this is something very unique that you know about, and and I wanted to hear about it. So
yeah, for sure. And
okay.
So I am going to say we have passed the 30-minute mark. I am going to draw this to a close.
Oh, really? Okay.
What?
I agree. I think it's a good. It was a good show. I enjoyed talking to you about this. So.
I would love to talk about aliens, but let's save that for another day.
Right.
Although there's been no alien architecture found on the moon yet. Although you did say it might be the home of the what did you call it? Remember
what?
You like, was it from like Starship Troopers or something? The arachnids.
Oh, I sent you a text about. My friend sent me something about a website where NASA keeps track of fireballs. These are meteors that enter the Earth's atmosphere, and so when people see actually, I think we should do a show on it. Let's do the show on it next week about fireballs. And so I just made the joke that it's the.
Oh, you're saying the fireballs were attacks from the Klendathu?
From the arachnid homeworld, which is Klendathu. Robert Heinlein's book called Starship Troopers.
Yes.
Which is,
I guess I assumed for some reason that was related to today's show, but okay, I get it. It could be both. So we can talk about how fireballs from space or meteorites could possibly be attacks from the Klendathu, which are arachnid aliens from
the arachnid homeworld from Starship Troopers.
Yeah, why not? That's entirely possible. We should definitely talk about that.
Okay.
So with that said, okay, I gotta say, look up, because you never know what you will see.
You never know.
This has been SG2 on Space,
right.
the only weekly space show. You can go on YouTube, search for SG2 on Space.
I would hope that people would like and subscribe and all the good stuff,
and do all the wonderful things that you guys
and to our viewers from 10,000 years in the future.
10,000 years in the future. What do you say to them?
We say we're well. Keep watching episode after episode, and you'll find out what life is like in the 21st century. First quarter of the 21st century.
2024, that's the year right now. So if you're watching 10,000 years from the future, realize that, I don't know if if Leonard and I are representative humans of this planet, since we're both kind of strange, but, at least you get a picture of what
you get a picture of the outliers. So you get a little snapshot.
You get a picture of the outliers. That's right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
All right.
All right, everybody. You guys take care and all that, and we'll be back next week. So,
namaste.
Okay.
And shalom and
all that wonderful.
Good night. Mwah.